Pierre, you want to come out here?
Nani?
I'd like to tell you a story about a puppeteer. This was the greatest puppeteer known to the land. He created the most lifelike puppets, and through his trials and tribulations, he put art in motion. This puppeteer had gained a following. He was able to bring happiness to so many young people in the theater in the big city. Surrounded by lights, fame, and fortune, this puppeteer had nothing but the sky as a limit. But one day, the theater decided to update its impressive roster with more fire, lights, and spectacles. The puppeteer quickly but quietly found himself out of work, and while he found himself slumping into a depression as he prepared to lose his house, his fame, his fortune, his money, and more importantly, the people who admired his creations. This puppeteer ended up leaving the big city and moved into the deep country, where he met a woman and created a new life. And as he found himself admiring the new life he had, he couldn't help but remember the fame and fortune he had acquired once upon a time. Seasons changed, years went by. The puppeteer and now wife had a small child, and this small child was considered and deemed by the puppeteer to be his greatest creation. It reinvigorated his hunger, thirst, and drive to create art. So this puppeteer locked himself in his basement and worked day and night to recreate his puppet collection. And once he had made a collection that was deemed to be so great that no other art form could ever stand to it, he went back to the theater and demanded that the theater director give him another chance. The theater director insisted on having a behind closed door show to prove that the puppeteer really had the best show on earth. The puppeteer agreed, and the theater director sat and watched. The theater director was not impressed and claimed that if he couldn't make a better puppet in one day, he would cancel him off the list. Under duress and under pressure, the puppeteer went back to his house in the deep country, defeated, depressed, crushed. His wife was concerned about his health, but the puppeteer had one last creation that he had not yet revealed. He assured the wife that this would be the greatest show on earth and told her to meet him at the theater. The next night, the puppeteer made it to the theater and told the theater director that this was going to be single-handedly the best show on earth and demanded that he be the closing act. Against better judgment, the theater director could see the vigor and tenacity and passion in the eye of the puppeteer. He succumbed to this request, and the puppeteer went on last. And what he revealed to the crowd was considered to be one of the greatest shows on earth. This puppet was so realistic, so dynamic, so powerful, so moving, that it brought the crowd to a standstill silence. They were amazed with the show, and he received a standing ovation with end reviews claiming that this was the greatest art form ever put to action. The theater director, the wife, and the puppeteer met at the backstage after the end of the show, and all the crowds were gone. The puppeteer sat there silently, exhausted, broken. The wife claimed that this was definitely putting a toll on her husband, and she didn't enjoy seeing him like this. But the theater director said that he must be able to put on another show, that they're gonna get great reviews. As the wife listened in, she began to wonder where her child was. She asked her husband, the puppeteer, "Where is our child? I would hate for him to have missed such a great show." At that very instant, the puppet shedded one single tear. The room grew silent as it watched the puppet cry. The puppeteer looked his wife directly in the eye and said, how could he have missed the show when he was the main attraction? That night, the theater burned to the ground. By the time the fire department got there was no suspects, and they couldn't find any sign of arson. Eyewitness accounts claim that there was a young boy standing out in front of the theater while it was on fire. They could never find that boy, and once the fire was put out, they searched for the remains and ashes for days, but nothing that resembled the wife, the child, the theater director, or the puppeteer could be found. And even till now, this case has yet to be solved. The end. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this story. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll get to learn more about the Man in Black, and we'll get to see the role he plays in this comic book. My name is Hero, and these are The Strangers.